I am here with Mohammed, and he is the creator of ATW, All Time Wrestling. It's a card and dice game. I hope I got that right. I played it enough. I should know what it is. I've made videos on this game before, so I'm very excited to have the creator here to talk to me about this. This has been going on, I want to say, for 3 years now. Is that right?
Yeah, well, 3 years officially. We were working about a year before that on the concept and the design.
That's
Um,
awesome. And aren't you bored of
yeah,
doing this yet?
not at all, man. I do get bored on certain occasions uh, when things go wrong. I mean, like in our
Okay.
last campaign, when some of the elixir cards were missing from the extreme editions. I mean, that was annoying. That's like a moment in life where you look at it and you're like, oh, I can't deal with this headache. Um, but uh, but you rise above it, and the passion drives you through. And what I love doing, and I think we were talking about it right before this call, is every time I feel like, yeah, I'm done with ATW, uh, I I sign this new wrestler, or I think of this new wrestler like a created wrestler because we mix both. And I'm back to square one of being so passionate about this game. Like I can barely sleep. My wife can tell you all about it. She'll be like sitting there at 3 in the morning. She's like, "What the hell are you doing? Why is there a notepad next to your bed?" And I'm like, "I got an idea for whoever it is that we signed." So yeah, it's been fun, man.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And yeah, that's one of the things that really keeps me coming back to the game and keeps me interested in it is I can see the continued passion and support for ATW. This is a game that is like constantly improving. It's in constant. I got like prototype versions here. You've been so gracious to involve me kind of in this. I think I was one of the first early adopters, and it's really cool to watch it keep evolving, see you interacting with the community. And yeah, you said you had like an issue there with the Kickstarter. You absolutely took care of that. You're a fantastic creator. It's a great company that you've made here, a great game that you have. I can't gosh. All right, you know what? I think it's best that we get into the new Kickstarter. I want people to know if you're looking at this and you're like, well, I want to get involved in this. Well, now is a great time because right now, if you're watching this video in real time, and even if you aren't, there's probably another Kickstarter coming up soon because it doesn't seem like you guys are running out of steam in the near future. Um, is you got a Kickstarter going on right now. And you can still be a part of this. You can back this. I'll have the links down below as well. It's up for like the next 7 days. I'm putting this video out Monday, the 10th of June, 2024. But like I said, always follow them, always check them out, even if you're coming to this video late. And speaking of support of this game and everything, this I'm showing on the screen right now my wrestling channel. This is Parts Unknown. If you're not aware, I've got that. And here it is. Here's my review of the last Kickstarter from a year ago. So if you want to know more about the mechanics of the game, I do have videos about that. I wanted to show you that. All right, enough of my self promotion. Let's get to the Kickstarter here. Mohammed, walk me through this. We have a brand new expansion to this game, and you can back it now. It's already fully funded. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was funded. I hate saying this, but it was funded in 60 minutes because it gets kind of annoying.
Sure.
We we had this joke where, like I joke about running a Kickstarter with a funding goal of $1 and just putting funded in 0.0001 seconds.
Funded instantly. Funded before it
No, but I mean,
launched.
no, I mean it's going well. It's where we were expecting it would go. I think third time around, we know it's the same people come and back every time, and there are new people that come in and find out about the game. And if you've been there and you know about this about ADW, I don't know how much I can tell you. Hopefully, I'll keep things interesting. But if you're new, the one thing that I will tell you is you might feel overwhelmed when you go through this Kickstarter page.
True, true.
And because, at first it looks good. We're talking about a box set with 9 legends: Sergeant Slaughter, Junkyard Dog, Kamala, Nick Aldis, and all of these are licensed by Cat Iron Arts. Johnny Oldtime, Brian Pilno, and Dynamite Kid. What a roster, man, right?
Yeah.
And then you find Oms and Gilgamesh. One of them is a historic character, obviously, that we've created. And everything here looks kind of simple, but then the second you look at Want More Legends and you see two
Yeah.
other boxes and you start digging into the rabbit hole, you're like, well, what the heck is going on? And there's so much content. So the one thing I'm gonna tell you is don't feel overwhelmed. This is your first time you come to the Kickstarter. Just back the Rumble edition. That's my first kind of
Okay.
advice to you. Forget about All or Nothing, forget about Extreme Edition. Just grab a copy of the Rumble edition or go to our website and order All or Nothing or Extreme Edition. Just pick one of the three major products that we've released over the past three years. And if you enjoy it, then you can get the rest. But I think a lot of people when they first come into the campaign, they see all this content and they're like, man, I can't afford to get all this. You're not meant to get all of this unless you've done it over years and years and years.
Sure.
So don't get overwhelmed by this. And what you can see here today is our previous campaigns. So as Frank just rightfully mentioned, our previous campaigns had Randy Savage, Andre the Giant, Kurt Angle, British Bulldog, RVD, Sabu, Raven, and Damon. But that's not where things stop. As you know, Frank, what makes things a little bit more complicated is the different match modes and the different player modes for each pledge. I don't know if you've experienced that and you've seen the different match modes that we've come across.
I've played most of them, yeah, and they all really hold up. Everything is super fun. Let me ask you a question. Speaking of those match modes, I know in the big box here, you've got a solo player campaign. Is there like a solo player campaign uh, in the new Rumble? Is that in there, or would I have to get the big box to get the solo player campaign? Because I know that might be kind of a sticking point for people coming into this if they're new.
Excellent question. So the box that you're referring to was the first edition we released back in 2022. It's All or Nothing.
Yeah,
That has a massive solo campaign.
it
It
does.
has about 200 campaign cards, like 8 playable wrestlers, branching storylines, thousands of things. So if you want that campaign, you're gonna have to get it. However, if you're a solo player and you just want the Rumble edition and you just want to try things out, we just yesterday, Frank, I think you've seen this, we just announced that we had signed or we've partnered with Nathan.
Yeah.
Nathan is the creator of Worldwide Wrestling, which is an incredibly successful RPG. And he's going to be designing a Sergeant Slaughter solo campaign. It's a much, much smaller campaign than the All or Nothing, but it's something to get your feet wet in, something that you can try. And if you like
All
it,
right,
then
cool.
maybe you can get the All or Nothing as that massive beast of a solo campaign, and it only costs $14. Like if it'll set you back, the Rumble edition's $49, the Sergeant Slaughter campaign's $14, so that's quite reasonably affordable. It's written by and designed by one of the best. And
That's awesome.
the great thing about it is it's standalone. You don't have to get anything else. The Sergeant Slaughter campaign will come with Automa cards, Automa die, everything you need to play solo matches as well.
All right. Well, that's really good news. So this really is. So you're directing people towards the new Rumble edition because it's the most updated, it's the most refined, um, and it's a good starting point is what you've created here. Not only a great expansion, but a good starting point as well as what I'm hearing.
Yeah, and honestly, it really depends on your preference. So I'll maybe I can summarize it. If you're on a budget, get the Extreme Edition. It's about 35, $36, something along those lines. It's being released on retail next month.
Hmm.
So the Extreme Edition is for you. It has RVD, Sabu, and Raven, and it has an amazing exploding barbed wire death match, which is crazy,
I just
crazy
I just
fun.
saw that. I just saw that. So yeah, that wasn't like
Yeah,
in the
it
preview that I got,
It,
and
and it wasn't in the preview. I need to send you a copy. You need to
oh,
play
you
this,
did. You
Frank.
did
I
send me
mean,
a coffee. I do have it,
I did.
and it came in, and yeah, the first thing I noticed is it had an exploding barbed wire deathmatch. I was like, oh, this is awesome. Like I said, you're constantly adding new stuff to this. It's so
Yeah,
deep.
it's my favorite match mode, to be frank. That and the cage match to me
Yeah,
are
cage
my
match is
favorite
good.
match modes.
And the
Yeah.
cage match
So
is
so
in
so if
the big box, right?
yeah, so
Yeah.
so to summarize, if you're on a budget, get the Extreme Edition. If you love multiplayer mode, so if you play in groups of 3 to 4, get the Rumble Edition. That's your go-to. if you like solo campaigns, or if you prefer the wrestlers in All or Nothing, Randy Savage under the Giant Kurt Angle, then All or Nothing is your core. Obviously, if you can afford it, get all three. But those are really your three products. And if you're on a budget, depending on your budget, this is where you can pick and choose. And that's what's amazing about ATW. We have so much variety in different products that it really caters for all wrestling fans, whatever your budget is, wherever you live, whatever your preference for wrestlers are, whether you like extreme wrestlers or old school 80s or 90s wrestlers, they're all there. You just need to find the box set that suits you best.
Yeah, I think a lot of people might be wrestler driven. They might be like, "Oh, that's my wrestler right there. Let me get that. Let me get
Yeah.
that version." And that's cool.
Yeah.
The All or Nothing and the Extreme Edition are both available on your website as well, outside of this Kickstarter. So if someone's coming to this video late, they can check that out. Tell me more about the new expansion, about signing these wrestlers. There's some surprises here. There were some things in here that I didn't think you were going to be able to do. Seeing things that you've said on Facebook before, and I'm curious the story of how you got them into the game. Sergeant Slaughter's a great addition. That's a wrestler that I would have assumed you'd be able to get a hold of. Either retired or something of that nature. Um, Sergeant Slaughter growing up, was that a I mean, you know what, one thing that confused me about Sergeant Slaughter though is he a wrestler, or is he a GI Joe?
He's
That
both, right?
right, that always confused me as a kid. I didn't know whether the wrestler came first or the GI Joe came first. I know now that the wrestler came first. It was a
Yeah,
very
he
interesting
did.
tie-in, but he was such like a famous GI Joe character that
Man, Sergeant Slaughter at one point was like only second to Hulk Hogan in popularity. Like the guy was over big
yeah,
time. And I
yeah.
think I think you can see it on our Facebook. Like I usually run Facebook polls, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
on board game groups, on our page, on Cat Iron Arts. You can check it out. And I ask people, where what kind of wrestlers do they like? And I purposely put wrestlers that I know might be available that are not on a WWE Legends deal. God knows everyone's on a WWE Legends deal
Yeah,
nowadays. And Sergeant Slaughter was like always one of the top three people on the list. He'd get like 50,
yeah,
60, 70 votes out of 100. And
it's
people
ridiculous.
loved him. So I'm very happy to sign him. Obviously, he's the feature wrestler in this edition. And he plays so differently. So I don't know, Frank, if you want to talk about the gameplay, but
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah, I mean, like the one thing that I will brag about, and that's the only thing I'll brag about on this call. Well, two things. I'm lying. The first thing I'll brag about is we have excellent customer service, and
You
if
do.
you don't have to ask me, just ask anyone around.
I've seen it.
And
I've been following the Facebook group ever since its inception, and I've seen example after example of good customer service. It's one of the major complaints that people have with Kickstarters is if
yeah,
things fall through the cracks, but you were right there. So if you want to back this thing, just go follow ATW on Facebook. If you have any issues, you let Mohammed know. They're going to take care of you. It's not going to be a problem.
yeah, man, I appreciate the kind words, and
Absolutely.
hopefully, yeah, I mean,
I
just
wouldn't
ask
say it
around.
unless I saw it with my own eyes. I just see it again and again and again. I'm missing this. This wasn't there. No problem. It's going out to you.
Yeah, because we don't think about it financially, like how
Yeah.
much are we going to lose on dealing with it. What I care about is people walking away
Mm-hmm.
happy with the game and
Yep.
happy that they played the game. So that's one thing I'm proud of. The other thing I'm proud of is every wrestler in all time wrestling is designed differently and plays differently.
It's true.
And more
Yeah.
importantly, they play so thematically to who they are in real life. So it's not like they're just playing randomly and differently. No, man, you feel like you're wrestling a Sergeant Slaughter or
Yeah.
Raven or whoever it is that you're wrestling as.
That is my biggest praise for this game is that it feels like wrestling, which is so weird to say. And if you watch my playthroughs on it, I'll be like amazed. I'll be like, this is like a wrestling match. Like you've captured it better. I've played a lot of wrestling simulations, whether it be video games or role playing games. This thing really gets it. Like I can tell you're a huge fan of wrestling. You know what a wrestling match, how the mechanics of a wrestling match work, and they're in the game. Everything you
Yeah.
want. And as you add more expansions, you even get, like now you have a barbed wire exploding death match, you have a cage match, and they all feel like those things.
Yeah.
which is great. And then every character is unique onto themselves, and their mechanics work differently, which is pretty cool. There's not a lot. You don't see a lot of cut and paste kind of action happening, which is kind of a trope of a Kickstarter game where it's massive, it has 1,000 characters, they're all basically the same. Like they're
No,
reskinned. Like okay,
yeah.
it's a
I
bunch of
mean,
cool
these
miniatures,
wrestlers,
but
no, I
no, this is really
absolutely
unique.
agree. And I'm just glad, my 35 years of watching uninterrupted wrestling, 5, 6, 8 hours a day, finally, finally came
It paid
to something
off.
positive. It paid off.
I'm trying to do the same thing myself, actually. That's why I started up the second channel of just wrestling. I'm like, I'm watching 8 hours of wrestling a day. This should probably translate into some kind of business. I don't know.
Man, I love that channel, and
Oh, good.
I think what we really wanted is when you're playing a Sergeant Slaughter, you feel like you're Sergeant Slaughter. So I'll give you an
Yeah.
example, a live example of how Sergeant Slaughter plays. So his incredible ability is so this is the infinity ability or permanent ability,
Yep.
is that he can do what we call onslaughts. So like if you watch old school Sergeant Slaughter, he'd come in, man on fire, beat the crap out of everyone. That's when he's a babyface, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he would just be on it. So like what how that translates into the game is instead of playing one card, you can play as many cards as you want at the same time in what we call a rampage attack, and you can play any card as long as the damage doesn't exceed 5.
Wow.
Um, and so we had a mechanic in the old game that was called rampaging, and it was
Mm-hmm.
specific for specific cards.
Yeah.
Now we've for Sergeant Slaughter we've opened it up to any of his cards. But the cool thing about Sergeant Slaughter is we know in the 90s he turns heel, or the late 80s, early 90s he
Yeah.
turns heel during the Iraqi the Gulf War, the first Gulf War, and he becomes a villain and aligns himself as a sympathizer with the Iraqi army,
Mm-hmm.
and that is actually in the game. So in the game, you can trigger that as an ability midway through the match. And what
Heel
that gives
turn.
you, heel turn, you actually literally go heel turn. And
That's
that
awesome.
gives you a defensive kind of ability, and it gives you a manager midway through the match. A guy we are calling Colonel Mustafa, but he's obviously representing someone else. So,
Nice.
that a historic figure that I don't want to mention,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
that person will then be by your side and helping you out through the match. And the cool thing is, because Sergeant Slaughter then goes back babyface after a year or two or however long it takes, I can't remember.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the cool thing is, you can then there's the second that you trigger that heel turn, you now have an ability called Patriot, and you can turn back into a babyface, right? Um, and when you do, you have to get rid of this manager, right? So you're kind of and it's thematic, but
Yeah.
it's really cool because game mechanic wise, you when you turn heel, you sacrifice your onslaught ability, your ability to do rampage attacks with all your cards. And then when you're turning back as a babyface, you're sacrificing your manager and that defensive ability. So it's really about timing your heel and face turns properly so that you're able to win the match. And I mean, that's just like,
I'm
it's
excited
so
about
cool
that.
as a wrestling fan.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. I'm definitely excited to get my hands on Sergeant Slaughter and check out that ability. That sounds really fun.
Yeah.
As most of the
Or
wrestlers
like,
are, like pretty much every wrestler has a pretty interesting, unique ability that you get to trigger during the match. But that's definitely some next level stuff right there from what we've seen previously. Talking about
yeah.
big wrestlers, you got Junkyard Dog in here too. That's another guy that was crazy over. Kind of more in where was he before he came to WWE? He did well in WWE, but the place he was before, he was like the top guy.
So yeah, I mean, several. I mean, he was really popular in a lot of the southern
Yeah.
territories when there were territories back then. And by the way, Sergeant Slaughter was really big in AWA and other federations before the
Yep.
WWE.
Yep.
But with Junkyard Dog, I'll be very frank. I didn't grow up watching Junkyard Dog as a star. I just saw the WWF version
Sure.
back,
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
where we
Same
live
with
in
me. Yeah.
Dubai.
When. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
we,
hard
we
to
didn't
watch
get
that stuff.
territory wrestling. Yeah, I mean, I watched it as an adult, and the reason
Yeah.
I became so aware of Junkyard Dog is people kept requesting that he's part of the game. So,
Yeah.
I started watching some old school wrestling, fell in love with his character, with his abilities, and we got him into this game. And the way he plays is he's into headbutts. I don't know if you watched a
Yes.
junkyard
Yeah,
dog
I
match.
remember that.
My God, yeah. So your whole match is you're trying to headbutt as many times your opponent as possible, which allows you to accumulate like enough tokens that you can then dish out on one headbutt that just deals an incredible amount of damage, and you're able to pin your opponent. So it's a really cool thing. Again, that's thematic and different than the other wrestlers that we have.
Nice.
Um, and then you'll notice Kamala as well. Kamala's, I mean,
Yeah.
massive. I mean, we have a very strong, a representation from the 80s here. And I wanted Sergeant Slaughter, Kamala, and Junkyard Dog because it's a rumble. You want big wrestlers,
Yeah,
right?
well, I was
I
gonna
mean,
say with
yeah.
Kamala, like this is actually kind of up my alley. We got another horror wrestler. This made my
Yeah.
horror wrestler tier list. I can't remember where he placed. Now I want you to get the Boogeyman. Look, if Danhausen ever becomes a free agent, if that's ever possible, we need Danhausen. Danhausen needs his own expansion. I think that's that's crazy big.
I
But yeah,
want
Kamala's great.
Yeah, I mean Kamal is great, and he's super athletic for his size,
Yeah.
and he's the most difficult wrestler to play. I mean, he's the most complicated wrestler I've ever designed.
Okay.
He has a
I
lot of
wouldn't have thought that, but there it is.
yeah. I mean, I just had this vision again midway through my sleep. My wife definitely thinks I'm crazy, and I get up and I say, basically you're trying to match cards that you're playing with the cards in your hand. So traditionally in ATW you play a card, you deal damage, and then you play again, right? If
Yeah.
no one stopped you. With Kamala, you're trying to deal cards that not only deal damage, but you have the same type of card in your hand because you can discard them for extra damage. And you can do the same thing on defense. So you can like reverse a move if you have the same type of card in your hand.
Oh, that's
And
interesting.
what makes it yeah, but what makes it complicated is when you taunt, you can actually go to your discard pile and for 3 times a game and return cards into your deck. So you're doing a lot of deck construction, trying to
Wow.
get these matching cards as much as possible in your hand, which allow you to deal some incredible abilities. From a gamer perspective, that sounds interesting. From a wrestler's perspective, it's just so different. It's like you're with Kamala, you do a head chop, your opponent says, "Yeah, go for it." It's just one damage, and then suddenly you like discard 3 other cards just like it, and you've dealt 4 or 5 damages like equal to a finisher. It's just so much fun to play.
I want them. I want the powers that be at all wrestling federations to let you sign anyone you want. That's what I want.
Oh man,
You
I
would
wish
have
I
such a
could.
field day.
Oh my God. I mean, like Samoa Joe is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time.
Yeah, I was gonna
And
ask you like, who would you put in the game if you could put? You would get Samoa Joe in here.
holy shit, I'd definitely get Samoa Joe. Excuse my language, Frank, but
Do you
like,
already? Do you have the notes on the side? Or is it already written? Is he ready to go for like the moment you
dude,
can
he
get him?
is ready to go. The second I sign him, he's just like, do the
It's it.
artwork, get it done. That's it. It's the player board's ready, everything's ready. And it really hit on the internet. I don't know if you remember, like 8 months ago, I think, when he just moved out of the way and the other wrestler was jumping at him, and
Yes.
the other wrestler did, that.
Yep. Yep.
So I've loved that about Samoa Joe since maybe 2005 or whenever I was watching Ring of Honor. And like that was one of the first abilities I put on his board is just being able to walk away from any aerial attack. So
Perfect.
I think we could do some really cool stuff with Samoa Joe. My favorite
So,
wrestler of all time is Bret Hart. So if I'm able to sign Bret, I'm just dancing off the rooftop of buildings. Like that would be my
that's a
like
cool get.
my dream signing
Yeah.
if I could do that.
He would fit in well with a lot of what you already have in the game too. Like, that would work out.
Yeah, I
That would
mean,
work
can
out
you
nicely.
imagine a Bret versus Kurt Angle match? Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. All right, let's
Yeah.
keep going through the list here, man. This stuff. All right, now we're getting into the stuff that I did not think you could do. How did you do Nick Aldis? Isn't he signed with the WWE? What happened?
So he is. I signed him before he signed with WWE. So
If you
just,
get him
as
before, what a opportunity. That's awesome.
yeah. So the second I heard he quit the NWA, I contacted him immediately.
Nice.
Got him signed. And that's by the way,
Wait.
Frank,
Did you
that's
just
that's
contact
yeah.
Ricochet? Did you contact King Puma?
I I wouldn't be allowed to until his contract actually runs out.
Okay,
So then like
but
the
you
day it
got him. You
runs
got him
out,
on
I'm
speed
dropping
dial.
an
You're ready to
email.
go.
Yeah, like I'm not gonna mention names, but there are five other wrestlers we've already signed for the future that
Oh
we
my
haven't
god.
announced. Some of them have been signed a year ago or 2 years ago, and we're just waiting for the right time to release them. And they're big names, so no spoilers. But yeah, I mean, you gotta sign people when they're
Hold
available.
on.
And
What's happening? Were did you get Will Osprey? Was that even possible? That
no,
was
no,
like you didn't even know that was going. Like I don't even know when his contract. I think he signed his AEW contract before his other contract expires. There was like
yeah,
no room for you to get in.
no, not at all, zero. I mean,
Osprey,
I
why couldn't you give me a week?
I wish, man. I wish. And that, but that's a key to. I think that's one of the keys to our success is we sign people and we pay money
Oh,
when we know the cash flow won't come for 2 or 3 years because I know these
wow.
guys are going to get snapped up. Like
Yeah,
Johnny Alltime. I mean, if you go back to the
yeah.
Kickstarter
That's
page,
what I was.
he's with
All right.
he's Johnny Elite now, right? He's
Yeah.
with All Time Wrestling. We signed him,
Wow.
right before he got signed to All Time Wrestling and sorry, All Time
Oh,
Wrestling,
yeah.
All Elite Wrestling, and we got to feature in the game, which was awesome. We actually
That's
signed him at the same
awesome.
time as RVD, which was about a year and a half ago.
That is
Uh,
mind blowing. It that is interesting lore to know that when I see a wrestler and their contract is ending, Muhammad is out there and he's on the scene. It's like I wonder how many people are like that, or have you had any conversations about that with these guys? Like when you're looking to sign them, are they like, oh yeah, we've gotten like 6 offers as soon as the contract expires, all these people that want to use them for their various things just leap on them.
it's shocking to me that a lot of the people I contact say, I've never been contacted by board game
Wow.
publisher before. Yeah, video games, I think they have been contacted multiple
Okay.
times, but some of them haven't. I think Matt Cardona was signed by the Super Show. I think Raven, also the Super Show, which is a really cool game. It started in 2012 or something.
Okay. Cool.
Had signed Raven previously, but a lot of these wrestlers like have not been featured in other promotions, which is really cool, right?
Yeah, that's a really interesting. That's I really this game's so great, and the world that you've built with it. So yeah, another thing, if you're not familiar with the property, and we're talking about this, like, why do you have Johnny, Morrison, John Morrison, Johnny Elite, Johnny TV, Johnny Nitro, whatever you want to call him? Why do you want? Why do you have him wrestling Sergeant Slaughter or Junkyard Dog? Can you briefly kind of give me the world setting of all this?
Oh
Because
yeah,
I find that
yeah.
part fascinating as well. That's one of my favorite bits of this is you have this
I
whole backstory lore around your wrestling federation.
I should have started with
It's all
that.
right. It's all right. We got to start with all the
Yeah.
fun stuff. Now we're in the deep weeds, and we can tell people about the cool story and the original characters too.
Yeah, I mean, the cool story for us was it's 200 years into the future. There's a very rich man who's passionate about wrestling. We call him Charles. We don't disclose any more information about him. You get glimpses and pieces about him in the solo campaign. And he uses a time machine to bring to his timeline the absolute very best wrestlers from past, present, and future. And the cool thing about this, apart from the fact that it's a really cool storyline because you're able to bid like these legends from different time zones against one another in this sci-fi setting. But you get to do all kinds of cool stuff. Like in the barbed wire exploding death match, we have like these elixir cards damn elixir cards that we're missing, but the elixir cards that are like an advanced technology that allows you to repair and heal your body midway through a barbaric match, like a barbaric exploding death match. So we also it's not just like this theme just to explain why wrestlers have come in. It also allows us to bring in different elements into the existing match modes we have,
Nice.
and different wrestlers. So like Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh is for those of you who don't know, is part of the first poem ever recorded in human history, from Mesopotamia, modern day Iraq, about God knows 2000 before Christ. And he in that poem, in that story of Gilgamesh, he wrestles with what will become his best friend or brother or whatever you want to call him. And it's the first instance where a human story has talked about wrestling in its raw form. And so we thought, why not bring Gilgamesh in? And because he's literally the first wrestler that we know of, right? That a story has magnified as this hulking tower that wrestles other people. And you'll also notice that in the Rumble version of the game, we just unlocked the stretch goal of having
Yes.
Abraham Lincoln
That's what
as
I was
part of
scrolling
the
down to. You went right where I wanted to go because I was like, wait, speaking of historical figures, like you just
yeah.
signed Abraham Lincoln. Like, what is going on with this game? I don't even. Is it on the campaign here?
Yeah, it's on the stretch goals. It's like way at the bottom.
Way at the
I
bottom
think
under
we
the reviews.
yeah,
Oh,
we
okay, here we go. Here
yeah.
we go. All right, so we unlocked the stretch goal of Abraham Lincoln. Yeah, there
There
he
we go.
is.
And
That's wild.
and just to be clear, he's only playable in the Rumble mode. And what that means, just for anyone who's confused, what the hell's the Rumble mode? So this Rumble edition has a match mode called the Faction Rumble, or the Abu Dhabi Rumble. Abu Dhabi is where I come from. And the cool thing about this Rumble mode is we have 16 wrestlers, and you can add another 8, so you have 24 wrestlers in a faction. And all these factions, it's like a faction war Rumble style where you have to throw your opponents off the top rope. And in order to get this match mode working, we couldn't use the normal player boards that we use for every match. So we created these massive cards. You see, this is like a massive card. It's double the size of a traditional card,
Okay.
and it's like it's the replacement for the bio for the player board, and we call it the Rumble Bio card. And it
Nice.
allows us to add more wrestlers into this Rumble that might not have the full blown player board and etc. And we said, let's
Okay.
add Abraham Lincoln because we've wanted him for the past 2 campaigns. We're
Wait,
never able to
what?
like.
Hold on. Explain why you wanted Abraham Lincoln. Why was
I'll tell
that
you why.
important to you?
It was so important, even though I'm not American. But I'll tell you why. For 2 reasons. Number one, apparently, legend has it that Abraham Lincoln invented the choke slam. For that, he's a legend, right? Like, I mean, he has to be in the game if he delivered the very first ever choke slam. That's number one. Number two, before we even had an ATW community, I was asking people who they want to sign. And a lot of people, everyone mentioned real wrestlers, but Abraham Lincoln's name kept popping up. And I said, that would be really cool, right? Like, why not have Abraham Lincoln? I mean, it's just so random and so
Wow.
weird. But also, if you guys don't know this, Abraham Lincoln was a very accomplished wrestler, an amateur wrestler. So, I thought that would be like super cool, and it would really
Wow.
fit the theme of bringing people into the future.
I learned something today, sir. I had no idea. I had no idea that Abraham Lincoln was an accomplished wrestler. That is absolutely wild. So does this Rumble mode open up just even more wacky characters like that? Like, I guess does it simplify the design process?
Yeah, I mean, definitely simplifies the design process.
So
What we
you don't have
did
to make
for
a whole new way for this for a character like Abraham Lincoln to like interact with all your different systems. This
yeah,
is it's a very simple way for you to add in. Are you got
yeah.
any more wacky characters on board? Are there any more top fan requests out there that we might see pop up
Oh
in the
my
next
God.
edition?
So recently we've been getting a lot of these uh, requests for historic characters. I don't know what it is with historic characters, but like the ones that I really liked was Rasputin. I
That's
think
great.
that would be super cool to design.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I mean, with the story that you got going on, you got a time machine and you got a wrestling federation and you want to do some stunt booking and it's a Royal Rumble. I mean, it's always good to have surprise entrants. Why not? Rasputin, who else
yeah,
you got?
man. there was, and then you have Charles the Sun King. I don't know if you know him from history. He's a French. He's like one of the biggest French conquerors, and
Okay.
people have asked for it's Caesar. People have asked for God knows King Henry
I
for
want to
whatever reason.
I want to know what Abraham Lincoln's entrance music would be. Just the Star
Well, you know,
Spangled Banner? Like what happened?
with Abraham Lincoln, it's theme music. We can,
Hail to the
a
chief.
guy in our group called Steven, like on the ATW group, has been using AI music. And I know some people don't like
That's
AI. I
fine.
get it. But like he's been using AI to generate theme music for ATW.
Nice.
Maybe we could ask him to like generate a theme song for Lincoln.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's an AI prompt. Wild, man. Wild. All right, can we get Dracula?
Oh my God, that would be
Can
awesome.
we can do
But can we get the
Dracula?
real Dracula? Not
Right.
like the Fang Dracula.
Vlad the Impaler?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's get Vlad the Impaler.
That
Let's
that's I
go.
think that's even scarier than the myth of, than
Yeah.
the myth of Dracula. Like I would
Yeah.
rather face the vampire Dracula
It's
than
number
Vlad the
13. It's
Impaler.
Vlad the Impaler coming to the ring. Oh
Yeah, I think
no.
that would be cool.
He can do an impaler. Yeah.
And I think you have a lot of experience in that. Who would interest you more, Vlad or Rasputin? I mean, they're both such interesting characters, right?
Yeah, you know what? And Christopher Lee has played both Dracula and Rasputin, so you got me on
Yeah.
both. Uh, I don't know, man. If you make Rasputin look like Christopher Lee, I'm in. That's my pick. But Vlad the Impaler is pretty great too. I mean, you got Dracula. If you got Dracula,
Yeah, man.
that's pretty good.
Yeah,
That's awesome. And yeah, I love the created characters in the game. It's one of my favorite bit. As the things that you make are just as good in my opinion as like the signed wrestlers. In fact, that's what got me into the game. One of the bits of why this stuck out to me is in the main box. You have kind of an amalgamation of Kenny Omega and Jericho,
yeah. Jax
and
Felix.
yeah, and I was like, oh, like this guy is into all wrestling. It's not just stuff from the 80s or 90s. It's current stuff. It's like everything. And that's what really got me into it is like it's such a nice mixed bag. Whatever you're into is represented here, which is really really cool. Let's
So
wait.
and the thing about Jax Felix, I don't know if people know this, but like if you look at his moveset, it's a combination
Yeah,
of, as you mentioned, Jericho and Omega. And at the same time, if you read his character description, he's from Winnipeg,
yeah,
Canada. He's a fifth generation wrestler, but we never actually say which line, bloodline, no pun intended, does he follow? Like, is he one of them? Is he maybe both of them? Who knows? Is he
yeah.
maybe he's not even related, right? Maybe, and we keep it open, and our hope is to create like a solo mini campaign for Jax Felix that hopefully will be able to answer all these questions in the future.
Oh, that's exciting. All right, you're teasing me even more now. All right, that's awesome. All right, so let's talk about Brian Pillman. You got Brian Pillman in here. Kind of surprising. I wouldn't have thought you'd be able to get him. I would have thought that he would be unobtainable for some reason, but there he is. So that's awesome. What does he have going on? That
So
can he himanize himself?
well, what he can do, the cool thing about Brian Pillman is there are two parts of his career. There's one where he
Yeah,
was Flying
Flying
Brian,
Brian.
right? And there's the loose cannon Brian Pillman. So
Yes.
the game will come with a loose cannon Brian Pillman as a playable character, and he's a loose cannon. Basically, that's how he plays. He does crazy shit. Excuse my language,
That's all
and
fine here.
he throws you off. Like he'll slap you, and then midway through the match he'll
Can
just
he
slap
pull
you,
a
and
gun
you'll
on
say,
you?
"No, I can't do that. Unfortunately, I can't, man. You're gonna get me in trouble."
Brian
But
Pillman did. He got in trouble.
yeah, we have to unfortunately have, I the Rumble editions. age 11 plus. So we got
Okay,
a
all right,
full
we got
time
to
11
keep the
plus.
handguns out of it.
Yeah. but but a stretch goal is flying Brian. So I'm really hoping that we hit that
Oh,
because that'll come with his own player board, his own
oh,
cards, his
nice.
own everything.
Yeah, let me get down to the
So I think
bottom here and see what is going on. That's important for people to know, especially if they're considering backing this, is that we do have
yeah.
some extra stretch goals going on. So
So
let's have a
we're
look
at
at these.
33,000 right now, and what we're going to be getting is at 40,000. Also, all these are unlocked, by the way, Frank.
Yeah, yeah, I'm
And
looking at
so
what's
we
been
have
unlocked so far. Yeah,
yeah, like all these solo campaign cards for these wrestlers so that they
cool.
can be playable in All or Nothing have been unlocked.
Oh,
Every single
nice.
wrestler.
That's awesome.
We've had one additional right hand card. So this is a pun. A lot of people texted me on Extreme Edition. They're like, "There's a right hand missing." There wasn't a right hand missing. It was just we created a common pool of cards. So I said, guys, you want the right hand so much, let's just put it as a stretch goal. So we're just shipping out an extra right hand card. Um,
I love how
and
community driven this game is. That's one of the best
yeah, man.
parts. It's so interactive. It's like wrestling. Wrestling's a very interactive form where the audience does
It
get to
is.
dictate storylines.
It's
Like,
like Taboo Tuesday, if you remember that, right? So and then Lincoln, obviously, we talked about,
yeah,
and
that's
then
huge.
from the first campaign, we've talked about having championships. So this is the first time ever we're going to release a championship card,
Oh,
and
cool.
it's going to have like abilities on it, which is cool that you can use in the match. So let's say you're playing with your friends, and you, Frank, you're the champ.
Yeah, of
Every
course.
time you enter a match, you're going to have this belt that's going to give you like an additional benefit, a small benefit.
Oh, that's cool.
And if someone beats you for the title, then they get that title, right?
I
So
like it.
it's just a cool way to, yeah. And
Yeah.
then, the next stretch goal, which, talks to the future of ATW, one of the futures of ATW is we got so much demand to launch a women's division. We've signed Women
Nice.
of Wrestling, which is a CBS syndicated show. We're looking at if it's possible to sign other female wrestlers. And so you'll notice we've already created two artworks for the Women of Wrestling edition. One is
Ah,
Beast, if you remember her from AEW. Um, uh, she's doing a vertical suplex here, so that's already been unlocked. And if you scroll down, I think this was unlocked today, which is her vicious spear. So this
nice.
is you'll get attack cards that are female driven, which I think is just like a heads up. This is coming. Women's
That's really
wrestling's
cool.
coming your way.
That's
And
really
then
cool. I
if you
think that was
scroll
one of
down,
my number
yeah,
one requests on, or I remember participating in that poll. Like, what do you want next? I was like, yeah, female wrestling is got to be big because I got two daughters and I try to play the game with them, and they're like, I don't know who any of these people are, Dad. Where's Oscar?
and
What's going on?
yeah, where's Oscar? And the thing is, if you remember with those polls, the multiplayer was voted number one, and the women was voted number two. So
Yeah.
that's why we released the multiplayer first, which is the
Yep.
Rumble edition, and then the next edition will be the women's edition,
Oh, that's exciting.
and then yeah, so that's fine, Brian. He comes as a fully playable character for all deluxe and gold backers. So he'll come in with the Trailblazer box, which is even you don't have to be deluxe or gold backers. If you just have a Trailblazer box, this stretch goal will come to you. Trailblazer is the one that gives you Nick Aldis. Sorry, the one that gives you Johnny Alltime, Dynamite Kid, and Johnny Alltime, Dynamite Kid, and Brian Pillman. So these three wrestlers are in the Trailblazer box. And for IP rights, we have to separate it from the main box of the Rumble edition. The Rumble edition is $49. The Trailblazer is about $25. And again, I had
Okay.
I had one guy text me on Kickstarter saying, "I don't want the Rumble edition. I just want the Trailblazers." You can do that. You can just add on the Trailblazers and get that. It really depends on which wrestlers you like.
Okay, cool. Cool. All right. And so that's our next stretch goal. Do we have anything after Flying Brian?
I want Abraham Lincoln to be a fully playable character. So
Okay.
yeah, so that's something that we're willing to invest in. We hadn't planned it, but people really want that. But we really need to be able to raise enough funds to because that'll delay everything. And when we delay stuff, it's delayed cash flow, it's delayed ability to deliver on other projects. We are a company that doesn't just do all-time wrestling. We have other products as well. And so it's got to be worth our time as well, and we got to make sure we have enough support to be able to do that.
All right, that's cool. And maybe not if this campaign, next campaign, if you don't reach that goal. Might
Yeah,
see it pop
yeah,
up. Who knows? That's awesome. All right. Man, there's so much here to talk about. You have such a vast game here. And I'm telling you, every one of these wrestlers plays different. There is infinite replayability on this game. I don't even know if any two games of ATW have even been really that much alike for me. It's been a really great experience. You got the Dynamite Kid here, which is cool. And this is the original Dynamite Kid, not the son of Dynamite Kid, who actually just
yeah,
showed up on AEW, which was kind of fun.
yeah. Well, and he did great. I mean,
Yeah,
that Dax Hardwood match was incredible, right?
you are such a fan. I love it. when when we're watching Collision, we know we're deep in the rabbit hole. It's good. All right, I need like I was saying, we got original characters, and you already told me about Gilgamesh. What is going on here with OMZ? What was the inspiration for this? Where do they come from? How do you say their name?
Uh, so it's alms,
Oms.
and yeah, and this is nepotism. And alms is my nephew.
Oh, great.
Um, yeah, and the reason is his mother. He was 17 when the first All Time Wrestling was released, and his mother backed the Create a Legend. My sister backed the Create a
Nice.
Legend pledge, which was for $1,000 we'd create your own wrestler from scratch. We'd do all your artwork, your full thing, like your whole player board, your attack cards, everything with the artwork, with everything. And when I designed them, I just loved that character so much, like the way he played, and I felt he was different enough for me to be able to add to the game.
It's
And
awesome.
also, I like representation. Like in this game, I don't want to get into a more serious discussion, but we have people of different ethnicities, different backgrounds, different religions, and I just felt like it's nice to have people from around the world, and that's why like in the future I'm thinking about what other cultures have we not presented yet or represented yet,
This is why I keep
and
pushing for vampires. I feel like the vampire
yeah,
community has not been represented in ATW enough, and I'm trying to get it done, guys.
yeah. I mean, and honestly, we're this close. We got Vlad the Impaler, and well, he's not a vampire, but Rasputin as well, just like knocking
Oh,
on the doorstep.
we're getting there.
Um,
We're getting there. I want to.
we're
I want
getting
a
there.
horror edition. Well, I will not truly be satisfied until there's a horror edition. You gave me Damon in the extreme box, and I'm pretty happy with that. We have like a psychotic Joker kind of character, which is
Isn't
cool.
he your favorite?
He's my favorite. Yeah, absolutely. That's my favorite one. Him and
I mean, that card with him choking his opponent. Like even when I looked at it, I just like I gave an applause to the artist. Like I sent him what I want, but I never in a million years would have imagined how amazing the artwork looked.
is very good. So tell me more about Oms. What is their style? So this is it's based off a real person. It's based off your nephew, but
Yeah.
what's the fighting style like of this character? They almost
Yeah.
have like kind of a
So
martial artist pose.
yeah. So my nephew's really into martial arts.
Great,
He's black belt, yada yada yada.
nice.
And the idea was that I took his real life story and I twisted it. So he's also a lot. He loves computer science and etc. So the story is he hacks a Russian website, and he gets captured by Russian security forces and thrown into a Siberian prison. And like he thought he was tough until he got there, and like there he becomes, I don't know if you've ever read Red Rising, but like he becomes like the guy, like the toughest guy in Siberia for over 10 or 15 years. And when he suddenly finally escapes and he makes it back to the US, he becomes a two-time a champ, where he becomes a UFC champ and a wrestling champion. He's a dual sport athlete. So that is the concept, is that this guy is just absolutely crazy. My nephew isn't, but he is, because he was stuck in a Siberian prison for
Yeah.
15 years. And so a lot of what he does is kicks and knees, and they exhaust not just your health but your stamina. But he has like this ability, this hold called the Siberian Winter, which is a crippler crossface. And the cool thing about his move is he has this ability where if you try to grab the ropes and get out of it, you can spend that token and you put your opponent back into it. So, like it's this tenacity that he has and his ability to use his striking techniques. He also has this ability to like kick someone while that someone is jumping at him. So if you play an aerial attack, let's say you say, I'm hitting you with a missile drop kick. Alms has the ability to discard like a roundhouse kick and he'll just kick you right out of the air.
Nice.
So I thought that was, like a cool addition of like this MMA style fighter.
Okay, cool. Yeah, yeah. I don't think we really have that represented. So, yeah, not just nationalities, but fighting styles are going across the board. So, tell me more about the future of where we're headed. What's next? This campaign's wrapping up in 7 days. You're fully funded on it. You don't seem to be slowing down. You got women's wrestling coming up. What kind of things are going to be part of the next campaign? When are you thinking about launching the next camp? Is it like an annual kind of release schedule that you have right now?
Yeah, honestly, listen, I wasn't happy with some of the delays that happened on the Extreme Edition. It wasn't delayed per se, it was delayed by a few weeks. But, if for those of you who don't know, we had shipping problems from all the political conflict in the world that delayed our shipments. So what happened is we launched the Rumble Edition just as people were receiving the Extreme Edition, which didn't give people enough time to play the Extreme Edition. I want to change that. I
Okay.
want to be able to deliver the Rumble Edition at least 3 months before we launch our next campaign.
Okay.
So our number one priority is delivering on the Rumble Edition, tweaking some of the gameplay on the Rumble mode and the free for all. It's still 95% there, and then I think the next step for us would be three major streams. So the first one is the women's edition that we talked about. And here it's not just an ATW skinned women's edition. We also have a Women of Wrestling standalone game, which I think about 5 or 6 of our ATW fans have play tested on Tabletop Simulator and absolutely loved. They're like, I want to buy it right now.
Nice.
And it feels very different than ATW, but in a good way. It's fun. It's short. It takes 5 or 10 minutes to play. So
Okay.
hopefully there's a campaign over this new version of wrestling, but also the Women of Wrestling making it to ATW. So that would be one. And then the second campaign that we want to run is a tag team division.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
yeah, I mean, we have Dynamite Kid and Bulldog, for example. I mean, people
Yeah.
can automatically tag team them, or RVD and Sabu, but we've been trying to sign tag teams. We've been trying to like build a tag division, have some of our match modes become tag modes as well. And more importantly, I think I want a tag team career mode where you and your friend can play co-op against an Ultima. That's something we don't have right now. Like you can't play as a tag team against an Ultima player or against the NPC.
That's cool.
So I think that's something that we want to work on. And then the third thing that we already announced in that beautiful Extreme Edition box that you have, you'll notice there was a card called Part 12. And by the way, for anyone who purchases the game, you'll always find a missing card. It's not actually missing. It's just the way we tease, the way we promote our next product. What happens is in the next edition, you usually get that missing card and it has a teaser of what's to come. So in the All or Nothing, there was a missing card that we delivered with the Extreme Edition. It was Part 12 Babyface, if I'm not mistaken, Special Encounter, and
Nice.
on it there was a teaser of a special the season 2 of our solo campaign. So going back to that solo campaign that people loved so much, we are now in the midst of creating a second massive solo campaign
Wow.
centered around our extreme wrestlers, RVD, Raven, etc. And we really hope that we would release that as a standalone product. And if you don't own the Extreme Edition, you can probably purchase it along with that solo campaign if we don't run out of copies by then. So those are the three really main branches that we're working on for Old Time Wrestling.
That's amazing. There's so much coming up. There's so much already here. If you haven't already, go check this out in some way, shape, or form. You gave us some great suggestions on what we can do depending on our budget level, our interest level, which wrestlers you're interested in. It's all there on the links down below. You can go to the website. You can purchase the two older editions. You can back the current edition. Is there anything else We should know. I feel like we're coming to the end of our time here, but it's been great having you on. I really appreciate you coming and talking to us about this because we've been following this game for about as long as the channel has existed now. I've been doing this for 3 years, and this is one of the early things that came on my radar. I was like, hey, I got a YouTube channel. I'd love to talk about this as a wrestling fan. I still didn't have my second channel up, and I just wanted to talk about wrestling in some way, shape, or form. So I appreciate you kind of partnering with us and letting me do that. And wow.
Man, and I really appreciate, I mean, you covering this game for the past 2 years, not
Absolutely.
because, and we're clear about this, we don't compensate Frank or anything. He just does it because he thinks it's a great game.
It is.
And that's what that's honestly
All
what I
right.
would
I
end
got
with
one
is,
problem with your game. I got one problem
tell
with your
me.
game, and that is I need
Yeah.
more time to be able to play it. I need more time in my life. That is my main challenge with ATW.
Yeah,
I'm really into the what you're saying about the new women's thing coming up, where it takes a shorter amount of time to play, because then I can get my kids involved in it, because they got no patience. What I could play a game for 2 hours at a stretch, I can take a whole day. I ain't got a problem with it, but to get other people involved with shorter attention spans, I like that idea a lot, actually.
yeah, and maybe hopefully we can digitize it as well, and you can
Ooh,
find a player from around the world that you don't know. I think that would be really cool.
that would be really cool to get these systems, these mechanics into a like mobile game.
Yeah,
Would
yeah.
be really, really
Mobile
neat.
card game.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I really
yeah,
like
yeah,
card game video games. Actually, it helps.
yeah,
I find that like playing like digitized versions of I play digitized like mobile game versions of Magic the Gathering
yeah.
and the Versus system and a few others. And I find it really helps me learn the mechanics of the and then coming back to the actual card game. I don't know, because it kind of guides your hand. It kind of makes sure you don't miss little steps. I know you had a few videos out there, a few Facebook posts about like, hey guys, are you remembering to make sure you get your stamina points or draw your extra cards, and having it in kind of a video game format, you kind of get used to the flow of the game better. It can help people kind of pick it up.
100%, man. We'll explore that, and
That's
I
awesome.
just want to say, thank you for having me. And
Yeah.
one thing I'd leave the fans with is, we don't do this for the money. We really do this for to create an awesome game, to create an awesome experience, to create wrestling fans, an experience for wrestling fans that they're gonna cherish and they're gonna love, whether it's playing by yourself or with someone that shares that passion with you. And if you haven't played this game already, just check it out. There's all kinds of budgets available, all kinds of options. Just pick one copy. You don't have to get everything. If you want to get everything, that's amazing. But if you just want to dabble with it, just take one copy, play it a few times. Hell, I'll be willing to jump on Tabletop Simulator and teach it to you. And the second that you play that game, you're gonna be just addicted to it, as Frank is, as everyone who has backed us for 3 campaigns now. The majority just keep coming back. Would attest to.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend picking everything up. But yeah, if you need to dip your toe in the water, do that as well. And we got videos that I'm going to link right now. If you want to see how it works, I have done playthroughs, so you can check those out. They're right here. Thank you for coming and talking to us again, Mohammed. Do you know what we say at the end of our videos?
Oh, you're testing me.
I am. It's a little bit of a test. So we tell people to
I
keep
should
we
keep digging,
keep
right?
digging. That's what we say.
Yes, I got it.
All
There you
right.
go.
So, Grave Diggers. It's on
Keep digging.
there you go.
He is I, and I am him, and I'm the undisputed trend Matt Taven. And this dork behind the camera, some Melvin told me to say, grave diggers keep on digging. Whatever that means.
I am AEW wrestler and Ring of Honor tag champ Mike Bennett. And remember, grave diggers keep digging, but not the monster truck. Even though my son really likes that monster truck, I kind of like Son of a Digger, and so I'm going off on a tangent about monster trucks because my son really loves monster truck, but we're talking about the YouTube channel, so make sure, grave diggers, keep on digging, baby.
So this is Mark doing one half private party saying what up to the grave diggers and you doing your thing, bro.
Alright, like, subscribe, and watch another video, or be cursed. And if you're cursed, that means the grave diggers will keep digging your graves. So you probably want to do it.